Good morning, everyone. My name is Adam Obenjoko, working here at VetBizCentral located in Flint, Michigan. I'm the business training manager, jack of all trades so far as I'm beginning to learn in this job. I've been in this position now for roughly just a few months, and my prior background is I'm an Air Force veteran, I'm an Army veteran, and I worked for the VA in Lansing. So I've been very privileged to have this opportunity to actually work in my current position right now. Very thankful for this position. But we're just going to move right along. There'll definitely be more contact opportunities as we go along. Just briefly about what we do here at VetBizCentral. We just help veterans and their families on the path to entrepreneurship. Whether you're starting up, whether you're marketing, advertising, later on in the government contracting, regardless of where you are, you or your family member in the process, we help you with business plans, business cost estimators, get you prepared for financing. We do just a little bit of everything. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce Tarek Maraba.
Good morning, Adam. Good morning. Thank you, Adam, for the reference. I just want to thank you also, Adam, for your service to our country, both the, as you said, Air Force and Army. You know, it's a wonderful thing that you're doing, and very much appreciated. As far as VetBizCentral, thank you so much for what you do, as well as your service to the veterans and the companies and the businesses and so forth. It's very important that they understand the available resources and the available support that is available. And it's also very important that they understand that, unfortunately, your time is spread out throughout, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of businesses and so forth. So you'd love to be able to spend, hours and hours upon hours with each company, but you only have so much time. But it's important that they understand the services and the references and the resources available to them. On that note, thank you all for joining us today. My name is Tarek Maraba. I was a subcontractor. For those of you wondering who I am and what background I have, I was a subcontractor through my company, Rymys Technology Consultants, to 3 VA verified SDVOSBs. So I was a subcontractor to 3 prime SDVOSBs, and SDVOSBs being service disabled veteran-owned small businesses. During my time at VA, in the small business office, I was there for 6 years, January 2014 to December 2019. So afterwards, after that time frame, became a consulting company to help businesses and help service businesses through organizations like VetBizCentral, and of course nationally as a consultant. When I talked to everyone about bringing this information to you guys, the importance of understanding you've heard it before. You've heard the prime, the sub, the this, that, and the other thing, but hearing it from being on the inside, hearing the information from on the inside, I'm going to give you some information with regards to really understanding your role as a subcontractor. And there are things that occur that are great things for you, but it's the most important takeaway is to understand how important a subcontractor is. Because as we get going in today's presentation, there's going to be a lot of information. The emphasis is going to be VA, GSA, and SBA. And it's important to understand that you are a very important piece of that pie. And every company that I've talked to, and I trained over 7,000 businesses, so I was the lead analyst during my time there. I did the research on how to do business with the VA and the federal government, put together the reference guides, resource materials, and so forth, and of course taught, and also prepared all the training materials, and taught over 7,000 businesses through webinars, conferences, in-person meet and greets, agency combined events, and so forth. Based on that. So there was a lot of moving parts during that 6 years in terms of really learning the process and being able to interview and talk to contracting officers, program directors, project managers, federal team leads, and really understand from different areas of the VA, the process is pretty much the same, but there's a perception that differs throughout the VA, and that's the core of really getting you to focus on the primary perception of what they how they foresee things and so forth. But as a prime and sub, it's very important to understand that process. So I'm going to get going with the information here, and we are going to go through. Let me see here what we got here. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. Always dealing with technology. So we're going to talk about, first of all, I want to thank Abron and again VetBizCentral for giving me the opportunity to help service, provide information, very important information to the services, the audience of the Michigan, Indiana, Ohio VetBizCentral. And thank you, Abron, for letting me be a part of this family and provide this service. With regards to my background, there is a lot of background with regards to the focus of doing business with the VA and federal government. But as like I said, as lead analyst, we really, focused in on answering the question. When I was approached by the executive director, Tarek, we want to answer this question. How do you do business with the VA? What does VA buy? What does VA do this? We want to provide this information to the small business community and the business community in general. So that was my task. And by the way, as I really quickly just mentioned on your control panel, there's a tab that says handouts. If you click on the arrow to the left of the word handouts, it's going to expand that window. So there's a red tab with an arrow on the top of your control panel, so it may have minimized. That will expand it and open it. If you click on the handouts pane, the arrow to the left of the word handouts, it'll expand the window. You'll see one PDF. That PDF is a PDF copy of today's presentation, so you'll have a copy of that. It has links and resources and references that we're going to be talking about and mentioning today. So I want you to have a copy of that. So you click on it, it'll open on your desktop. You'll be able to save it and review it afterwards. And of course, have contact information to get in touch with me and ask any questions. And of course, you guys have contact for VetBizCentral. That's number one. Throughout today's session, also, we're going to be able to talk about, it's going to be very fast. So we're going to talk polling questions. I'm going to give you little tests and quizzes. These tests and quizzes are little, polling questions are going to pop up on the screen. You're going to choose some answer, read a question, choose an answer. We're going to talk about the answers. There's 5 of them after each section. It's important to understand, I'm going to emphasize key things, key components, and references and resource material. And one of the key things I always emphasize, and for those of you who joined us for the Framework for Success webinar or the Capability Statement webinar, there was always discussion of data and decision making, okay, and resources. Where do you find this information? Where do you get this information? Again, question always comes up, why is a consultant, why is this, why is that, so important, is because of the time. In my time during the VA and talking, training over 7,000 small businesses, and especially talking to them in person and meeting them throughout the lifetime of the 6 years. And you see that while they start building a company or moving through a company, time is the one commodity you don't get back. So you have to use your time efficiently and effectively. And the key to really understanding the process of doing business and why subcontractors are important is because you're an expert at one thing. Over time, you'll become an expert at many things. But where you perform on your expertise is you as a subcontractor. And in talking with all these businesses throughout the time, everybody wants to be a prime. Let's explain why that is. It's a wonderful experience, but let's talk about the experiences and the responsibility. Okay, so we're going to talk about many things in that sense too. With regards to Rymys' mission, our mission is to work with agencies like VetBizCentral and VBOC and SBA and so forth to help educate from the inside out, from really understanding the mindset of, and again, I'm not a psychologist, so I'm not saying this is what they think or how they think. No, what I'm presenting is I've sat down with these people and I've interviewed them and conducted surveys and talked to them and asked them questions, received feedback and said, hey, from SBL, small business liaisons all over the country, to program directors, contracting officers, and so forth, even contracting officer representatives. And who are they? They are the people who actually work on a program team, who correspond back and forth, email back and forth requirements, information based on the contract, to the contracting officer. So they are their liaison. So that's an important thing too. So that's our mission. Our vision is to grow in a way where we're available to you and to organizations to be able to really present the information from the ground up and even more detailed. Our goal is to provide more detailed. So more detailed training and references and resources and capabilities to you, and service that from A to Z of terms of contracting scenarios and helping you win contracts. That's the key. On September 30, there's a link in this presentation, okay, in this handout. There's a link there for you to be able to click on at the end. I'll also be sending emails. You'll be getting emails and correspondences from VetBizCentral, so make sure you're signed up with their newsletter and their email list. On September 30, and please hear this, on September 30, which is the end of the government's fiscal year, and the next day, October 1, is the beginning of the new fiscal year. On September 30, Thursday at 10 a.m., we're going to be giving a webinar that talks about what VA buys in Michigan. Based on that, now, I'm not going to give you, the presentation isn't, oh, they buy sanitizer, they buy stethoscopes, they buy this, that, and the other thing for for their hospitals and clinics and so on and so forth, and the offices and printers and so on. No, we're going to talk exactly how the government sees procurement, not only from the perspective of their clients, because they buy for their clients, their customers, but we talk about NACE codes and product service codes and information, and what are the top 25 purchases, what are the top 100, how much procurement dollars do they spend? Is it worth pursuing this contract? Is it worth this, and this? A lot of questions based on the nitty gritty of the procurement process. And once you know your NACE codes, which you all should, because you all have capability statements, right? And you all know your NACE codes, and you all know your competition and so forth, then you know what the VA buys. So that's the whole goal. That's our vision, our mission, and we try to bring that to life today and of course, over time. Today, you're going to learn about subcontracting, and then we're going to dive deep into subcontracting resources for the VA, SBA, and GSA. Why is that important? It's important because it's very simple. You need to know who are prime contract holders and understand why prime contract holders are important, but why you are important, because you're an expert at the one thing. Again, there's going to be discussion again and maybe repetition in some areas, but the prime is responsible for the contract. It's that simple. The sub is responsible for one piece of that contract. Now, something happens over time. You hear me say time, okay? When we talk about building relationships and time, well, over time, you two build a relationship. Now, that relationship doesn't mean you're guaranteed anything or anything set in stone. It's just that over time, evolution dictates when you're working with people, you build a relationship. It's that simple. The prime is not necessarily there on site. They have worker bees. They have people who are on site doing the work. So you end up building a relationship. So that's very key. When you become an expert at that one thing, you more so than not solidify your position in terms of coming back with other contracts, because you've proven yourself that you can do the work, okay? That's why subcontracting is a very important component, because, for example, in myself, I wasn't responsible for the contract. I was responsible for completing the tasks and building the relationships and building the trust that I can do the work. That increases every day, every month, every year, over time. And guess what? When you believe you're ready now today to be the prime contract holder, being a subcontractor is going to teach you that you're not, and you're going to learn when you really are, for yourself, to be honest with yourself and say, hey, you know what, we're not ready to be, but we offer unique products, and we have to work just as hard to become a subcontractor to a prime as we do a prime through the process of the agency. So we're going to learn about subcontracting resources with the VA, SPA, GSA, and of course, subcontracting opportunities and finding opportunity partners. And we're going to wrap up. In between, we're going to have polling questions and go through the process. I'm going to mention important numbers, information, resources, reference material, directories, Excel spreadsheets that you open up and has all kinds of contact information and so forth. It's all out there. It's being able to know where it is and actually how to utilize the information, because again, it takes time. So, there are specialties and specialists who do things that you guys don't do, and how much time you have to spend to do it. If you're 3 men on a team or 5 men on a team, you each have your plates full. And at the same time, you have to, when you take your eye off of one task and go to another task, guess what? The other task's not getting done. So that's how you don't get time back. So let's talk about, by the end of today's training, you're going to recognize the advantages of becoming a subcontractor. So I emphasize that. You're going to identify the various subcontracting resources available to small businesses, identify federal databases that are out there that people have created and spend time creating, because these things are not easy, for you to be able to learn about who's available, and choosing the best strategy for becoming a subcontractor to the prime holder for doing business with VA. Okay, so let's talk about subcontracting. Again, we're going to fly through this because it's a lot of information and I can talk for hours on each one of them. Subcontracting, what is it? Provides veteran-owned and other small businesses an opportunity to do business with the VA and federal agencies. Why? It's a quick, you guys have heard about the Simplified Acquisition Threshold Contracts, SATCs, or Simplified Acquisition Threshold, which is $25,000 to $250,000. So we're talking about the contracting options for those contracts. Yes, those are also a way to go get, to prove it deals, in a sense, prove who you are today. But when you go into SAM and you put in your NAICS code and you do the research, it doesn't say bing, 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 bing. This is a simplified acquisition contract. So then you wonder, okay, this is going to be a big one. Do I have the resources? Do I have the time? And so on and so forth. But this way, subcontracting, there are databases that say this is required by these prime companies to hire subcontractors. It doesn't get any easier than that. The hard part is finding it. So that's why we emphasize subcontracting. Become an expert at what you do. Helps a small business become familiar with contracting, learn the process, gain experience, strategically share resources, and preserves reputation. So you build over time. Prime contracting, subcontracting program, subpart 19.7. Learn the FAR. Go to 19.7 to read it. It's not 20,000 pages. Just understand, have an understanding of the language. So review FAR 19.7. Learn about eligibility and governing regulations, because that's what the contracting officers do. They read the stuff. They go by this. And if you've ever seen an awarded letter or an awarded contract or awarded scenario or situation, they say based on FAR this or based on VAR in terms of the VA's perspective, the VA's acquisition regulations, which are built off of, written off of the FAR, Congress approved, etc. But they will give you the indication. You also have heard CFR, Code of Federal Regulations. So that's where they get their information based on that. Prime contractor is the primary contract holder to a project, direct to customer. I'm emphasizing that. Prime contractor has the direct relationship with the customer. Why is that important? Because as often as you have experiences, I've had one, where I have been the sub and you gain a relationship with both the customer and of course the prime company, you find yourself providing assistance or options or services or opinions that for whatever reason are not necessarily garnered or received well by some prime contract holders, because even though you give them advice based on what you see, they are the ones who deal with the company, with the customer directly, period, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And the customer will say, I contacted the owner of the company or the person I'm supposed to talk to based on the company, and that's that. Subcontractor is hired by the prime to complete a task. End of story. With regards to so we talk about Part 44 refers to subcontracting policies and procedures. We're going to talk about schedule contracts because that's also an important thing. But these are the contracting procedures and policies for subcontracting. Part 44. So definitely learn about that. Again, the links are in the handout. So if you should click on save the handout, expand the window, the GoToWebinar window by clicking on the red or orange arrow at the top of the bar. Expand the window. Look for the handouts tab. Okay, you'll see it by the questions tab and so forth. With regards to that, and by the way, if you guys have questions, please type them in the questions pane. So you expand the window, click on the arrow to the left of the word questions, and type your questions in. And we'll definitely do Q&A. We want to involve you guys as much as possible. We want to hear your experiences. And, hey, we were told this, but, when I ended up doing this, this is what happened. And that's one of those situations because this is experiential. So learn about Part 44, Subpart 44-201, consent requirements. So you understand if the contractor has an approved purchasing system, the contractor officer has determined that the action is required to protect the government, the subcontracting type, complexity, value, etc. So these things are in place to be able to understand their thinking and how they, present the requirements for subcontracting. A sub to a prime, both have responsibilities of the customer. Again, prime contractor hires a subcontractor to do a job. The prime contractor is responsible for the entire project. Subcontractor's job is more specific. For example, if the prime contractor is contracted to renovate an entire building, the subcontractor is responsible for putting in new windows. Cut and dry. Okay, we're going to go to a question. I'm going to pop up a poll question on your screen. Please take a second to answer the question. And again, I'm going to discuss the answers based on, the relevance to the question. So we are, pull this up. Okay, polls, launch. Which contractor holds the contract with the customer? I mean, this is an easy one. I pretty much said it. I expect 100%. I clearly emphasize the information because as we go forward, it's going to be simple keys that you see. There's going to be key instigators. Are going to be, hey, ding, 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 ding. Here's the sirens. Sound the alarms. This is what you understand based on putting A plus B plus C and so forth. Okay, almost done. A few more seconds. Come on, everyone. All right, I'm sure you're all eager to see the answer. So let me share the answer. There you go. Everybody said prime contract holder, wonderful. I know this may seem rudimentary and very simple to you guys, but there's a reason to really emphasize this information. Again, you have a relationship with the prime contract holder, okay? And when you move forward through a contracting situation, let me explain something to you about prime contract holders. They're not that easy, okay? They are just as solidly entrenched as an agency is. And the reason for that is because they've worked very hard and for many years over time building that relationship, so they're very protective of that relationship. They also want to say, because when they hire you, it's their reputation that's on the line, not necessarily yours, because they can say to the company, hey, these guys are not, these guys, are not, holding their weight. So guess what? Subcontractor gets cut, new subcontractor comes in, but guess what? The prime contractor still holds the contract. And the prime contract holder will be judged not for the bad subcontractor, but for how quickly they solved the problem and implemented a solution. Immediate example. That's an immediate example as to why it's important to understand the difference. Now, your goal, of course, is to be that subcontractor for long term. They will come at you at times. They will renegotiate when companies change and so forth. You know, depending on how big your company is, the processes, the situation is, and so forth, they may want to convert the company into a W-2 employee. They may want to push this, envelope this way, and you say, no, not going to happen. So as hard as you have to go to, work towards a direct contract with the VA, you have to work as hard to hold firm and, sell your company, sell your services to that prime and say, this is what we can help you do. This is how we can help the customer. This is how we can make you shine. Really? You can make me shine? Okay, great. How do you do that? You can do that? Great. Let's give it a shot. That's how you start building relationships, when you start looking at opportunities. So now when you start looking at opportunities from Sam, start thinking subcontractor to the prime. Because yes, one day you will be a prime, but right now, get your foot in the door and learn the ropes. That's a big key. Thank you all for participating. Let's go to the next pieces. So let's talk about the VA, some contracting resources available at the VA. So you've all heard of schedules. We all have them. We try to keep them. But when we talk about government schedules, you talk about federal supply schedules. There's been a lot of changes lately with consolidation, name changes, how this works, how that works, onboarding, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? Well, schedules are a contracting vehicle that companies get on to sell product to the government. They're also a way for companies like yourself to be subcontractors and say, hey, we can help, sell these products to the government. Or we have products that we want to sell to the government once we get on schedule, and we want to sell them through a prime contract holder who already has that contract. I'll give you an example. Spoke to a potential client about a month ago. He started telling me, oh yeah, I sold to the government, I sold this, I sold that, I did this, I did that. So he did everything. Oh, but I was with a company who was partnered with a company who had a contract already with the VA, and we were selling through them. So that information gets uncovered, of course, 5, 10, 15 minutes in the conversation. And it's like, well, then where you are, what you want to do, you're no longer there. You don't have anything. So it completely turns. So you got to take advantage of resources and how to develop strategies based on what's available to you. In doing so, we look at the VA. Find companies in the VIP, the database where you've either become prior, VA verified service disabled veteran and small businesses yourself, or a veteran and small business. These are companies that you can partner with. Whether you're an SDVOSB or 2 SDVOSBs, it doesn't matter. There's no regulation that says two SDVOSBs or VOSBs can't partner together. One is the prime, one is the sub. There's nothing that says that. So there are references based on size standards and the NACE code and that kind of thing. But as far as you can't partner with an SDVOSB, go find them in the database. They're there. You have to work as hard to get in the door. The first phone call, you'll get hung up on. The second phone call, this first phone call, you'll leave a message, not get a call back. They'll be like, yeah, who's this person? You get a call all the time. Second call, third call, you'll send emails and so forth. You got to work it. Fifth call, hey, how you doing? Listen, I've called several times. My name is so-and-so from such and such company. I'm not one of those marketing companies. I'm actually I'm the president of this company. I'm calling on behalf of, Mrs. Smith from this company. We saw an opportunity in Sam that we want to partner with you. We want to talk to you about partnering with as a sub to you as the prime. And here's why we are very good at what we do and how we can make you shine with the customer. We understand that you've had 2 contracts prior. you're pending other contracts. Now, how am I speaking these words? Because I did my homework, and it's not easy, but you got to find the information. You got to learn about the company you're talking to. It's like going for a job. You get a call, you submit your resume. Hey, this company is interested in meeting you. Well, you have to learn about the company. So when you go talk about things, you say, yeah, I learned about, this. I understand you have this. This is fantastic. I've worked in this environment before where I accomplished this, this, and this. You got to work the system the same way. But you have to know where to start. Once you have the information, then you move forward to the next step. That's key with this information. Use it. It's there. Okay. And again, the one thing that I emphasize is time. So for those of you who are familiar with this database, you're already in it. For those of you who are not and who are eligible, I've talked to potential clients who are veterans, and they like, oh, what do you mean get verified? They're far and few between in that sense, but there are veterans out there that have no clue. Yeah, I haven't thought about that. I don't know what's the process and what do I do and so forth. So the key is to become a VA verified company. That's the mission, the direction, the directive is of course to become a VA verified SDVOSB or VOSB and secure contracts. Because there are many who become VA verified SDVOSBs, VOSBs who don't secure contracts. Those are the frustrated ones, the pissed off ones. The system doesn't work. Everything's, they're not doing this and they're not helping us. And they say they are, and they're doing this and not doing that. But there's a process. Getting verified is a piece of the pie. For those of you who attended the Framework for Success webinar, you saw how the big 360 wheel works. For those of you who didn't, you'll have an opportunity in the near future to keep an ear out, keep an eye out on the emails and the reference information about upcoming webinars. You need to learn how the 5 stages, the 5 process groups work together synergistically to create the process. And it's like an on-ramp and an off-ramp on the highway. You have to know which one to get on and which one to get off. And they all intertwine because you're going somewhere and you have a mission, you have a destination, but you have to know, where to gain access to what when you refer to the procurement process. But then you have to make sure that the risk is covered and you can identify your abilities to minimize risk. Then you look at the procurement and the awareness. You prove that you're aware and they're aware of you, and so on and so forth. It's a whole process, but using the information is there. Okay, so search. If you have 5 minutes, take 5 minutes and look at the database. Go search, see what comes up. Look in Michigan, look in whoever. Again, there are companies in Michigan who have national contracts. There are companies in Michigan who have contracts, in the region. Adam, worked at the VA in Michigan, so there's a VA in Michigan. Again, the procurement that we're going to do on the September 30th is going to talk about what does VA buy in Michigan. That's called place of performance. So a contract is awarded from Washington, D.C. office and paid for Michigan. And guess what? The place of performance, whoever performs on the contract, is in Michigan. So there are opportunities, there are directives, there are scenarios that are available to you. It's how do you use the information? How do you develop a strategy that will work? That's key. Federal prime contractor holders are, I'm going to emphasize this, are required to maintain acceptable subcontracting plan. 750,000 or more. Okay, listen, 750,000 or more is the magic number. Subcontracting plans. That means what? It means that a prime contract holder has to turn in a plan that says, these are the 4 subcontractors that I'm going to go and that are going to contract with us. This one's going to do this. This one's going to be doing this. This one's going to be doing this. And this one's going to be doing this. That's how that works. So they need to do this. So you need to understand what they're thinking, so go and learn this process, because that's going to be you as the subcontractor in this type of contracting. VA has goals. SBA, GSA, DOD, state, they all have goals. There's goals. So the Small Business Administration has put together goals. It's called the goaling report, based on the different small business concerns and the different goals that agencies have to meet, with 3% being the minimum. And of course, sky's the limit for the agency that goes that route. Of course, with VA, SDVOSBs, VOSBs, I mean, they want to go to 50, 60%, 40%, 50%, 80%, you know what I'm saying? So not all SDVOSBs, VOSBs can perform on a contract, or not all contracts have to go to VOSBs and SDVOSBs. But vets first, but not vets only. That's the saying that goes around. So that's saying, it's not saying, hey, we're not going to do, no non-veteran companies. That's not true. But that's what they prefer, because the VA, the veterans. But you can partner. I showed you where to go find SDVOSB partners. Be a sub to them. You got to fight. You got to claw your way through and say, hey, how you doing? What's going on? If you're confident enough in how good you are, that will parlay to the prime contract holder. That's key. And remember, this is the mentality, okay? Sometimes they'll say, or think, or you might think or perceive like, hey, they're not willing to be they don't want to take any more subs. They already have their sub, and that's that. And they're already used to that sub, and so forth. Well, if that was the case, if that was the mentality, okay, because they do push on that, they do push in that direction. But if that was the case, I wouldn't be here today working with VetBizCentral in Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana, and giving the information that I'm presenting, because I contacted them and they work with me. I'm a sub. Okay, so everyone is open to something new. You just got to provide them something different. Take them to the next level. Because I promise you, a sub before you called and said the same thing. But you got to take it to the next level. Now you know where to find and what to look for in terms of the VA is concerned. Okay, there are goals and there are numbers. So that's what you have to do. 750,000, that's the magic number. Okay, prime contract holders are required to maintain an acceptable subcontracting plan, and they are the direct contract holder of the whole contract. Small business subcontracting plan preparation. There's a template to understand what the plan is. Go and learn this template. Go read the template. Go fill it out so you understand what information is required, so you understand the process. Okay, that's the key. So you understand that process. Don't lose out. I mean, the information is there. Okay, so this is a federal supply schedule subcontracting plan template. So if you look at federal supply schedules, for example, schedules are a vehicle that the VA and even government officials go to, right, to buy products. So if you have stethoscopes, if you have something for orthopedics, arthritis, machines, back pains, whatever you have, get on a schedule. It won't hurt, but just remember this, and this is a big key. If you get on a schedule, that doesn't guarantee you sales. Here's how it works. You're authorized and approved to sell your product on a schedule. You have to market it. You have to market your product to that location, to the office. You have to determine, you have to run NACE codes, you have to run award histories, you have to run product histories, product service codes. You got to find, and that's a lot of work too. But you have to market your products or services once you get on a schedule. Now, what that does say is this: hi, doctor. Hi, hospital. Hi, buyer. We're on schedule. We would, you can buy our service, you can buy our product, you can buy our this from the schedule, because we're already there. Because when you go talk to them, they're going to say, well, we buy our services, we buy our products from schedule, because it's budgeted. They know the pricing, they know what they're going to pay, they're going to get it this way, so on and so on. That's key. Very, very important. Okay, guess what? We're going to go to another polling question. Again, this is going to be rapid fire. So here's another polling question. There you go. Bingo. Okay, I've said this loud and clear. What is the magic number that stipulates the requirement of a subcontracting plan? We'll go over the answer in just a few seconds here. Okay, we're going to go through the answer here. Let me share this with you guys. Fantastic. So for those of you who chose 750,000, yes, absolutely correct. With regards to the magic number, and again, because I get the question, and I'm sure Abron and Adam will get the question, and they've gotten the question a million times. What's the trigger? What's the trigger that I look for? Well, it doesn't stand out to you. It doesn't knock you on the head and say, hey, this one's coming out for 812,000. They're gonna require a subcontracting plan. No, it doesn't work that way. But now that the simplified acquisition threshold, of 250,000, 25,000 to 250,000, or 25,000, which is publicly posted on SAM and above, 250,000 is the threshold. The magic number for subcontracting plans. Okay, and that's key. So where do you find schedule holders? Where do you find companies who have these, who meet these requirements? Well, this is one of the key pieces. This is how hard, and I guarantee you, because these databases are not easy to put together. And there are people who work night and day to put this stuff together and make it nice for you to be able to use. So 750,000 is your mark. 10,000, interestingly enough, someone chose 10,000, and that's actually a threshold for micro purchases without getting into the advanced stages of micro purchases or purchase card holders and so forth. But 10,000, so you got 2,500 to 10,000 in terms of the micro purchase threshold. In terms of that, you also have up until 24,999, but there are variances and stipulations and with regards to executing approvals and so forth based on the type of or emergency use or scenario that type of situation would occur. But 10,000 is the maximum for a micro purchase threshold in terms of 2,500 to between 2,500 and again 2,500 and 10,000. 2,500 is a threshold for certain products, services. 3,000 or 3,500 is a threshold for certain products and services, and 10,000 is a threshold for certain products and services. But those are in the micro purchase arena. 750 is the commercial, the solid contracting area of where you'd want to look as a subcontractor. But actually, I'm really happy that the person chose 10,000 because it gave us an opportunity to really talk about the differences of the prices and the costs and the thresholds that you see out there. Answer A, 25,000 is the minimum number of what a contract award is to be posted on SAM. 250,000 is the threshold for simplified acquisition threshold contracts. 10,000 again, micro purchase threshold minus advanced requirements and so forth. 35,000 is just a number. But as far as that's concerned, thanks for choosing and participating in this one for sure. So now let's go to SBA. You're going to hear me also say something repetitively towards the end in lesson 5, but I'm going to emphasize the variations of both. When it comes to SBA, SBA is the Small Business Administration. All they care about is business, large, small, That's all they do. Business. But they can't do everything just by themselves. So what do? They open up areas for subcontractors and contractors and prime contract holders who need subcontractors and so forth to run different departments, run different things, and do different things. People work for the agency directly. People work as prime contract holders. People work as subcontractors. That's how business evolves. That's how relationships in business works. The SBA, Subcontracting Resources Available, SBA, this is huge because they start the process and all the agencies follow when it comes to business, and they work. And everybody wants to be the leader in information, but to be honest with you, the SBA is what they are, the Small Business Administration. Their focus is nothing but business. So how do we provide you the resources? How do we provide you the information? How do we teach you how to use it? How do we, they ask themselves that question all the time. I mean, when it comes to Boots to Business and Boots to Business relaunch and condensed classes and long-term classes, what is Boots to Business? Boots to Business is teaching active military ready to enter the private sector, becoming veterans. They're getting discharged. They're coming out. They want to go into business. They want to do this. That's why Adam in the beginning said we help with business plans. We help with financing. We help with this. That's what the Small Business Administration is. Their focus is nothing but business. The Boost to Business program is a program that talks to being released active military into the private sector. And here's what you need to do. Here's what you need to understand. Here's what you do. At least now you're prepared in terms of we gave you some outline information. You're going to learn a lot of things on your own. Of course, when you stumble or go through this or go through that, that's going to happen. But at least you know what to look for. This is what's going to happen. So when it happens, you go like, oh yeah, they said this was going to happen. Perfect. So here's who I call. That's key. So why is this important? Because this is the key to the next component of databases. Okay, subcontracting with small businesses. Okay, there are policies and procedures based on the Small Business Administration. Okay, ensure that small businesses receive access to federal opportunities other than federal prime contracts. So go and read this, Subcontracting with Small Businesses. They have a whole section on it. Go to the website, read the information, and click on all the links just to get an idea. And because one day you're going to come across information and say, oh, we needed to see that information. I remember reading about that here. That's key. They have the plans. Now watch this. When we talk about the requirements, look at this. Let's look at this closely. Remember I talked about, and I remember sending out LinkedIn to my followers and emails, and I said, we're going to learn about databases and directories, and where we get information and names, phone numbers and emails, and how do we get a hold of prime contract holders? Well, look at this, subcontracting opportunity directories. It starts with the SBA. Other agencies has this. I'll show you in a second. With regards to the subcontracting opportunities. So you're talking about subcontracting networking database. You're talking about general services subcontracting. Look at that, the GSA, Department of Defense, SBA's Directory of Federal Government Prime Contract Holders with subcontracting plans. I mean, it doesn't get any more clear than this. They're there. Click on the link and get the database. Here's the key. You don't have the time to do everything. As far as getting the information, what do you do with it next? So those are questions you want to ask yourself. I denote the SBA subnet, okay, because there are two databases that you might get confused by. So the subnet is where you have contracting opportunities. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment because we're going to compare that one to the next one with regards to where do prime companies find you as a subcontractor, and why is it important to be, let's just say, why is it important for your information to be up to date? I'm going to give you a hint on that. We're going to get to it in just a moment. Take advantage of SBA subcontracting opportunity directories. Take advantage of them. They are there. The requirement creates opportunity for you. So there are requirements that require big companies and large companies and companies to hire subcontractors. Just like I've talked about the capability statement. and differentiators. Here's $1 million question for you guys. In the commercial world, do you know who your competitors are? 99% of you will say, yeah, we know who our competitors are in the commercial world. I have a question for you. Do you know who your competitors are in the federal arena? In the federal world? Yeah, that's a good question. That's who you're competing against. It could be a company that you compete with in the commercial world, but it could also be an SDVOSB or VOSB or partnership, joint venture that you haven't heard of. It could be two SDVOSBs who come together as one company as a joint venture for a specific opportunity. There's a whole lot of things that are created, but you have to understand them. So we talk about directories in terms of subnet, but again, I'm going to talk to subnet because the directory basis is actually for the prime contract holder to use a directory. They would use DSBS, Dynamic Small Business Database, which again, I'm going to talk about SAM. So let's get to that. But again, the emphasis is the requirements. Now, please understand that abbreviations are used of words to simplify space and so forth. But let's just go with the directory of federal government prime contracts with subcontracting plans through the SBA. Again, it's on the page. The links are there. It's that simple. The directory of federal government prime contracts with subcontracting plans lists federal prime contractors who are required to subcontract small businesses. Man, it feels like the storm that came through my area yesterday. 45-minute storm, power out for days. Don't understand it, but that's what happens. The Director of Federal Government Prime Contracts with Subcontracting Plans lists federal prime contractors who are required to subcontract with small businesses. Click on it. It's a big Excel. It's a big Excel. It's there. So somebody worked very hard to put that together, and the likes. So that's a key win for you guys. So now we go to contracting SBA. Get the help you need. So while Adam is available and Abron is available and people like me are available, there are people at the small business side of the SBA that are available. But always remember that as I was a subcontractor to the VA and trained over 7,000 businesses to, how to do business with the VA and the federal government, my time was limited. I couldn't spend the time I can spend with you guys based on being at the agency. I couldn't spend more than 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a half hour, an hour if it was scheduled and sometimes approved by management because you're a very important piece of the tasks and the mission, the directive, the directorate. So it's a matter of time. So there's questions. There are people available. They can answer questions. They can provide you guidance. They can provide you links. They can provide you information, guidance, answer questions, and so forth. But as far as like ongoing coaches and so forth, always something to consider. People who work with you and work for you and a part of you, and people who guide you and cannot provide the consistent, nonstop support ongoingly. So there's a difference, but they are available. I want to make sure you know that. SBA has the people available to get as much help as you can, as much as you can. Contact the procurement center representative. So there are procurement centers and talk to them. Talk to VBUC, talk to Adam, talk to Abron. Abron, this was discussed today. Where do we find this? We can help you. Or yeah, go call this person. Let me give you the name. Or click on this link, pick your state, get the information, call the person, send them an email. Things take time. You have to wait and so forth. They can answer right away. You never know. All depends on the situation, the scenario, and inundation of companies. You're not the only company contacting them per se. So, those things take into consideration, but they're there. So let's go to, guess what? Yes, another polling question. We're almost done. We're flying through this, but there's a lot of information. a lot of information. So I'm not here trying to confuse you. I'm just trying to make sure you understand the emphasis of the information. It's there for a reason. So let's go through this one. Here we go. Which directory lists federal prime contractors required to subcontract small businesses? Talked about abbreviations and so forth, but it's there, everyone. Please, everyone pick the right directory. Is it the networking database? Is it GSA, DOD, VA's vendor information pages, directory of Fed government prime contractors? Which one is it? I tried to emphasize it as strongly as possible, as loud as possible. So I didn't mean to be a loudmouth, but I just tried to emphasize it because it's important. And it's okay if you don't get the right answer, because each answer of something helps you in some way. But we'll regroup with the right answer to understand why that one is important. But there's nothing wrong with what else you choose. Okay, so almost there. Come on, everyone. A few more seconds. 10, 9, 8. Come on, make your decision. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. I'll close it out. And let's see what the answer is. So some of you have picked GSA subcontractor directory. Some of you have picked directory of Fed government prime contractors and VA's vendor information pages. Okay, so VA's vendor information pages is the directory of VA verified STVOSBs and VOSBs. So that's the small business community in that sense. Let's talk about which directory lists federal prime contractors required to subcontract with small businesses. Some of you who've picked the GSA subcontracting directory, okay. It's GSA related, yes, but it is a directory. Federal prime contractors. There was no agency depicted or stated. It was a federal prime contractors. We talked about which directory. So I didn't ask which agency, I said which directory. DOD subcontracting opportunity directory. That's a DOD related directory. Okay, for DOD contractors who require subcontractors. The directory of federal government prime contractors. The directory of federal government prime contractors. Okay, that is the directory. It's on the SBA page. And again, we emphasize the SBA as being the business agency. So for all businesses, directory of federal government prime contractors. So again, with some of the questions, some of the answers were there based on, okay, individual agencies or a federal database. So, but you now know that you have databases to get. That's key. That's a good thing. And that's the key of understanding the databases. Okay, let's go to next. Thank you for participation. Let's go to GSA. Same thing. We're going to fly through these because now you get the picture. SBA, GSA. So let's talk about GSA. Subcontracting directory, small businesses. Same concept. The directory exists. They publish for small business contractors seeking contracting opportunities. The directory lists large prime contractors who are required to establish plans and goals for subcontracting with small businesses. Okay, it's there. What do we say again? What do we talk about here? Look at this number. We talked about 750,000. Look at the bottom two bullets. For products and services other than construction at or over 750,000. For construction projects at or over 1.5 million. So that's a good picture. You know, remember the example we gave. One contractor has the contract for the whole building. Subcontractor comes in to put windows. I mean, most of those contracts are usually more than 1.5 million, so there's opportunity. Products and services other than construction over 750,000. So let's rock and roll, people. They're there. You just got to work. You know, you need help finding them, or you have the time and the resources to go get them. It all depends. But remember, when you find them, you have to be eligible. It's a big word, eligible. If you think you're eligible, great. Talk to someone, make sure you are, because you may find out that you're not. Big key. Now, this is key. I don't know how many people of you have been here, but you all heard of GSA schedules, schedules e-library, schedules this, schedules that, blah, 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 blah. E-library, it's now e-library. That's it, e-library for all of them. Online source for the latest contract award information. Very simple, VA and GSA schedules. Now, you know, even though they're here in the e-library, the VA has authorized to manage 9 GSA schedules, right? GSA schedules based on 9 of them for medical supplies, services, anything medical, staffing, etc. It's there. So VA has something called VA FSS, VA's Federal Supply Schedules and Platform and so forth through VA. But eBuy is the library of everything. So you see online resources for information, eBuy. That's it, e-library, GSA e-library. It used to be called Schedules e-library. Now it's just e-library. Simple. It holds contracts and awarded contracts VA schedules based on technology, including government GWACs, network services and telecommunication contracts, and IT. Small business support specialists. Again, I mentioned GSA. Access to support staff. GSA has the same concept for GSA type of contracts and awards. Again, you're going to get the basic information, the guidance, the links to go and get information, who to contact, and so on and so forth. But the time, the dedication of time that you may want may not be available, only because they are stretched for many companies calling for the same information, and they have only so much time in a day to work with you and work with their team to develop more resources and processes and so forth and so on. So you understand the differences of working with people who are dedicated to work with you and people who can provide you information, the resources and availability, but they're not available. I was them. I was them during the VA time at 6 years, because I got called and emailed and called and emailed and called and emailed, and I got told, you know what, Tarek, you can't, if you're doing this one-on-one, you're doing this scheduled and so forth, but I need you for this, this, and this. We need to finish this, this, and this. I mean, usually you have like 12 different tasks to do in like 3 days, you know, and then, I mean, the likely chance of someone coming to you and saying, you know, scrap that, we're changing course, we're going here, we need this tomorrow. So there's always that kind of component element to it. So it's not anyone's fault or not wanting to help. It's the ability and capability of time to be able to do things. So keep that in mind when really looking for these resources and how you want to proceed forward. But the GSA, the SBA, the agencies have these support people in place. Adam and Abron, I'm sure, help, you know, hundreds of people a day, a week, you know, thousands a month, etc. And they're constantly helping and working with people. But they can't help you like they can't spend all day. And that's key. Let's go to another knowledge check. We're gonna, like I said, we're gonna blitz these out. We got one more to go in a section and get to Q&As. Okay, so here we go with regards to the next one. Okay, very simple. Which GSA library is filled with information to help you build your business? I just made up some that kind of GSA's public library, GSA's subcontracting library, GSA's JV library, GSA e-library, GSA schedules e-library. And again, these are available at the websites. There's links, you know, those links in the training, so you don't have to like, you know, search forever. But which GSA library is filled with information to help you build your business? All right. Gonna close this out, share the answers. Okay, everybody. It's definitely not GSA's public library because they don't really have a public library. GSA subcontracting library, they don't have a subcontracting library. JV library, basically GSA JV is joint venture library, or whatever letters in that sense, but JV, it's not those three, sorry to say. The reference of D and E, GSA eLibrary and GSA Schedules eLibrary, is because it used to be called the GSA Schedules eLibrary. It's no longer called that. It's been consolidated. It's now the GSA eLibrary. The answer is D. So thank you all for participating. While there are wrong answers, regardless of which one you pick, thank you. It's important for me and us to know that when we list these things, we're not listing them to trick you or hey, you got the wrong answer. No, it's the understanding of like what happened in the past, where the future is, what names are changing, does it make sense, and why is it this way, kind of thing. So it helps us explain more clearly why things are the way they are. So again, GSA eLibrary, D. That's a simple answer. It used to be GSA Schedules eLibrary because you used to hear it every which way. People used to say, oh, GSA Schedules, and that's that. But how GSA names it on their website through Google search, etc., is GSA eLibrary, and it's available. Become familiar with it. They're not easy systems. They're not, it's not super hard, but it takes time. Like everything, it takes time. So if you take 2-3 days, a week, 2 weeks to learn this system, you're taking away your time from other tasks that you need to be completing, so other things are not getting done. Emphasize of that. But thank you for definitely participating. So we're going to go with one more. Now, this one's going to be different because we're talking about opportunities. And I talked about subnet earlier for GSA. Subnet for SBA, I apologize. SBA, finding subcontracting opportunities and finding opportunity partners. Get unconfused. So you've heard of subnet and you've heard DSBS. I hope you've heard of the DSBS. So let's identify a couple of these things, okay? So we're talking about subnet. Subnet is where large or small companies advertise subcontracting opportunities. So where do you find subcontracting opportunities? Just like when you go to SAM and you look for opportunities, SBA's subnet is where large companies submit for subcontracting opportunities. Here's one of the references of where they try to find you. This is where they do it, right here. SBA subnet is where small businesses seeking subcontracting opportunities start their search. Simple, right there, bingo. The link's there, it's on SBA's website, goes right to the point. Pick on your state, look at the opportunities. Remember, if you don't see many opportunities in your state, these companies still have opportunities nationwide. If you can provide remote, if you can do services, etc. If you have offices in other locations, pick those states and look at the opportunities. Never leave a stone unturned. If they don't have an opportunity this time around, guess what? You have their contact information. Start building a relationship. Here's where it begins. DSBS. Dynamic Small Business Database. You've heard of this. So this is a search. Larger small contractors also search for subcontractors. So this is where they're looking for subcontractors as well, for people, for small businesses, for subcontractors. Okay, so this is another database. Okay, now this database is a little maybe confusing, so don't confuse DSBS with subnet. This one gets, when you register for SAM and you go in and redo your portal for SAM, there's a page that comes up and says, this is the information based on DSBS, Dynamic Small Business. So it's like a self-certify system where you self-certify. So it tells you who the women-owned small businesses are, the hub zone, the 8A companies. But when it comes to SDVOSB and VOSB, those are self-certified, because VA certifies that process. But as far as this, ensure that your profile in SAM is up to date, because the information goes into DSPS. Now, there is a way to go into DSPS, but it's not through SAM to really make edits and changes on a big scale. That's a different time, but there is a way. Be happy to help you with that process. But as far as the general information, go into your SAM, look at your DSPS information that's inputted, and there's a section that says this is what's going to be in your DSPS. Make sure it's up to date. So we're going to go again to one more last question. And again, this should be a simple one. It's going to pop up on your screen. Just go ahead and answer. Where does registering in the SBA's Dynamic Small Business System, DSPS, begin? So remember we talked about how your information gets updated in the DSPS. There's an advanced way of editing it, and there's a very simple way of entering it. And I talked about one particular one. You know, this is funny because this isn't a trick. This isn't a trick question, but I'm really liking where this is going. It's actually going to open up an opportunity for us to really reference some new information for you. Just a few more seconds. Come on, everybody, answer this is the last question. We're going to get into Q&A, so hopefully we have like a million questions from you guys. Okay, I'm going to close it out and put up the answer. Okay, for those brave souls who dove in and took the quiz, not a trick question, but just a reference point. Beta.sam.gov used to be where you go. GSA opened up, launched in full motion, sam.gov, www.sam.gov, System for Award Management. I put SAM based on that. Beta.sam.gov doesn't exist anymore. Just go to SAM. Because you guys know that before SAM was SAM. SAM was always SAM. With regards to www.sam.gov, that's where you, of course, register your entity, register your company, you as a company, register your entity to do business, receive your cage code, go through DLA, etc. But beta.sam.gov no longer exists. It's now, SAM is fully operable as sam.gov. So everything that was beta is now all sam.gov. So if you have not been there lately, I recommend you go there because there's a lot of going back and forth and how you log in and you see all the companies you're with and the information and the process and so forth. There's a lot of things to deal with in that sense. So definitely make sure you go to sam.gov. It's that simple. So DSPS gets logged in from the SAM. Go in there, check your profile, update everything, make sure it's all up to date, and then there's a more detailed way to go in the back end, but that's a whole nother time. So thank you for participating, for sure. And the last few notes I want to make as we get to where we're going, prime contractors versus subcontractors and procurement readiness. You still have to be eligible to compete, so understand that, you know, being procurement ready, which you hear all the time, you will continue to hear. It is demonstrated ability of a small business to effectively participate in the federal government contracting marketplace and successfully perform contract work. It's that simple. VA verified for VA wise. Keep your capability statement current. Keep your company website current. Register with federal websites and build relationships with representatives. Okay, build relationships. It was a lot of information, but now you're able to at least recognize the advantages of becoming a subcontractor. That's the key, because before you may not have thought in the sense of how necessary subcontractors are to primes. Even though the prime, everybody wants to be a prime. You'll get there one day. But when you do, remember this point. You were once a subcontractor too. So when you get to become a prime, don't let it get to your head, because you used to be a sub and someone took you under their wing. Someone gave you that opportunity. Always remember that. Because when you get to the top, it's easy to say, I'm going to pick this company and I'm going to keep doing with this company, and that's that. So remember that. You were once a sub too. When you become a prime, remember the subs. That's how business evolves. Now you can identify the various subcontracting resources available, identify federal databases, very important. We've talked about SBA and GSA. We talked about the usage of the VIP, the VA, and the VA FSS and contracts. And we've also talked about using the best strategy for becoming a subcontractor to prime contract holders for doing business. So there are a variety of things, a lot of information packed into one session. So it's overwhelming. Yes, it's a lot of information. Yes, a lot of reference information. Yes, and so forth. But at least you understand that there's a lot of resources out there and ways. Okay, it's important. Some useful links for you, of course, to Rymys Technology Consultants, so a website address, doing business with VA reference guide with regards to the doing business with VA and the procurement readiness reference guide. And of course, learning about VetBizCentral with regards to working with Adam and Abron and the whole team on helping you in the area of Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana, and so forth. With regards to, I've talked about the webinar upcoming September 30th. The registration link is live. Go and register now, because again, it's going to be talking about registering and what does VA buy in Michigan, what the VA buys in Michigan. Again, this is NACECO, this is reference information, this is resources, developing strategy, where you are in the process, your company, do they buy what you sell, etc. That kind of question, because I've gotten those questions. Does the VA buy what I sell? Well, that's, what do you mean? Here's $1 million answer. If the VA doesn't buy what you sell today, they could very well buy what you sell tomorrow. It's about building relationships and letting them know that your solution can help them solve a problem. Okay, that's key. That's key. It's building relationships. It's helping write the requirements of what you offer and the problems you can solve, and moving forward. Because a lot of contracts that pop up and that are awarded didn't exist before. So you start with, you start with the beginning pieces of building a relationship. Contact information for me and Rymys is all available to you. Join the LinkedIn, website information, email address, phone number, schedule a meeting. We'll talk with you. We work with everyone. Talk, nothing wrong with that, and go from there. And of course, questions. So with, I guess I want to turn it back to Adam. I want to thank everyone for joining us today for sure. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to be here, and I want to turn it over back to Adam. Adam, do we have any questions?
No, I've been paying attention to the chat box here. There's no additional questions that I've seen here so far. So let's come back on for a minute. Just want to thank everyone for participating today. The slides will be available to you afterwards. That's normally a common question that we get. Does anyone else have any questions? I mean, you can type them in the chat box, or any additional questions for Tarek. Feel free to come off mute and do that now. Otherwise, I just want to thank everyone for your participation today. And once again, this is VetBizCentral. We're located in Flint, Michigan. We help veterans with their businesses in Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. We're actually the headquarters location here. But we, help veterans vet-to-vet, peer-to-peer programs. Just a little bit of everything. So if you are a veteran, or a veteran spouse, or a veteran family member, whatever the situation may be, are in need, we don't turn anyone away. We do have business consulting services, but we don't turn anyone away. We often have connections to other different places. So that being said, Tarek, did you have any closing remarks?
I just wanted to say thank you, Adam and Abron, for the opportunity to, again, show the community by actionable methodologies that subcontracting is alive and well. I mean, it all starts with a conversation, with a reputation, with credibility, with relationship building, but it started somewhere and it does work. If that was the case, you guys would never use subcontractors for anything. Subcontractors would never exist and nothing would get done. So thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us today, taking time out of your busy day. We hope the information was very informative and at least gave you an aha moment in somewhere along the line. And of course, you have the contact information of both Adam and myself. We're available for you. Let us know if you need any help, and we look forward to your participation in future webinars with us in training scenarios. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good day.
Oh, I have one more thing to say. Everyone, yes, everyone, when Adam terminates the webinar, you're going to receive a survey. It's going to pop up and say, please take the survey. Please answer the questions. There's only a few questions. Please answer them. Let us know how the information was presented, everything about you'll see about the webinar and the information about me, about the training sessions, about the content and so forth. So please take a few minutes to answer those questions. Again, you have a copy of the handout based on the handouts pane. You'll get a copy of the recording. So you'll have that available to you, but please let us know how we did. The survey is very important for us to know that we are doing a good job. So as soon as Adam says goodbye, take the survey.
All right. Thanks for that comment, Tarek, and everyone else. Have a good hump day and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks, Adam. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.